Morning, everyone. Welcome to the August 13th Natural Resources Board meeting. Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance. Right. So I now call our hybrid in-person and online meeting of the Natural Resources Board in Wisconsin to order. I want to recognize that Deb Dassow is joining us virtually. Thank you, Deb. We see you, and same with Doug. Thank you both for being here virtually. I know it's quite a trek, and there were other pressing things that you needed to do this week. So thank you for joining us. For those of you who are here in person, we ask that you please silence your phones and other devices that may interrupt the meeting and try to minimize background noise. For those presenting online, I will try to remember that there's a few second delay in the broadcast and pause periodically to be sure you're able to participate and respond to the discussion as warranted. Please remember to keep your sound muted and off until it's your time to present. The Natural Resources Board meetings are televised live via YouTube and are recorded and available for review on the DNR website under Natural Resources Board Briefs of Action. We welcome and thank all the viewers for joining us today. For almost 50 years, direct public involvement and open accessible meetings are the foundation for how this board has and continues to operate. Our Natural Resources Board discussions and decision-making are transparent to all. The public can participate by submitting written comments prior to the meeting, speaking at the meeting for up to 3 minutes, either in person or online, or both. So before we start with the agenda, I do want to extend a few thank yous. I want to thank Secretary Young for your leadership team and for the support you provide to this board and to your commitment to enhance collaboration between the department, the board, and the citizens of the state. I want to thank all the DNR staff and leaders for all the work that you did to provide us with an amazing tour yesterday, highlighting how important partnerships are to the Mississippi River and natural areas that are so treasured by the public. I also appreciate the tour of the sustainability projects at UW River Falls campus and how important it is to build sustainability for our future. It's also important for us as a board to see the breadth of work that's being done across the state, and to engage with and meet staff and the various partners at the local level. Every detail was handled impeccably, including arranging for perfect weather. I'm not sure if Jeff sometimes gets credit for that. I don't know why, but that's right. Let's see. I also want to publicly recognize Moa Ludke and Tracy Granius for their efforts. We would not have survived yesterday without that entire cooler filled with water because it was pretty warm, and everything, all the logistics went very well, and we really appreciate the time that goes into that. As for our issue presenters, I want to thank our behind-the-scenes IT staff and the face of our IT staff as well. Our Office of Communications, General Counsel, our law enforcement officers, and all the staff who make these meetings possible. Yeah, your work is critical, your time is valuable, and your expertise is appreciated and recognized. Special thanks and recognition to NRB Board Liaison Ashley Bistel. Ashley uses her outstanding organizational and communication skills to provide the highest quality administrative and logistical support to the board. Ashley is your primary contact for communicating with the board, and she does an outstanding job ensuring that your information is then forwarded to us. So please know that when you send things to Ashley, we get them. Are there any questions from the board members? All right, so we will go ahead and do the roll call.
Sure. Mike Amon.
Present.
Rachel Baresa.
Present.
Doug Cox.
Present.
Deb Dassow.
So present.
Here.
There you go.
Robin Schmidt.
Present.
Bill Smith.
Present.
Oh, and Jeff Hastings.
Present.
All right, well, we have quorum. And before we get into the Secretary's remarks, I'd like to give Mike Amon the opportunity to just tell us a little bit about himself. He's a newest appointee to the Natural Resources Board, and we really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks, Robin. Yeah, my name is Mike Amon. I'm born and raised in Wisconsin, grew up just west of Madison in Cross Plains, and I grew up hunting and fishing and being outside. It led me to my dad worked for the DNR, a career DNR man, a lot of respect for him, and it kind of instilled respect for the natural resources. I went to UW-Madison and got a degree in forestry, and then I moved up to the Northwoods and have been a practicing forester on public lands for 25 years. And I think I bring a good perspective of just being a field forester, practicing natural resource management on a large public land basis, which involves, I would consider a great responsibility, being a good steward of the land, managing the forest for generations, long-term management, long-term investment. And I've been there long enough to kind of learn what works, what doesn't, and, related to water resources, recreation, transportation, wildlife. I'm also on the board of the Wisconsin Sharp-tailed Grouse Society. So the mission of the Sharp-tailed Grouse Society is to fight for sharp-tails, which is a rare species, state threatened species in Wisconsin, and the landscapes that are important to them, which is barrens. And I'm excited. At work, I get to manage for sharp-tails and a really cool landscape. And as I think part of being a good steward of the land is recognizing opportunities to manage for all ecosystems in the state. And so and then I've spent 12 years sitting on CDAC. So I have a lot of experience in deer management and just sort of on the ground experience of just being at the table, having conversations about deer management. So I think with that, I think good experience and perspective, I'm excited to be on the board.
Thank you, Mike. We're excited to have you here. Secretary Young, go ahead.
Great. Thanks, everybody. And welcome again, Mike. It's good to have you here. And thanks to everybody who put the tour together yesterday. I know that I wasn't able to make it on account of the state fair and some meetings with the governor's office, but I know that I've gotten some good feedback. And so I hope that everybody had a really fruitful and interesting time yesterday. I also wanted to thank you all for convening the special NRB last month. I know it was online where we considered the scope statement today that we'll be considering today. And I look forward to discussions on that issue as we continue to navigate all the budget issues that we continue to face and that I continue to keep you updated on. I'll flag a couple of items since we met in person last time. I had a great meet and greet with the leadership of the Conservation Congress with my leadership team. And I think it's a great start to building a relationship, continuing to build a relationship there that's really productive as we share our priorities together. I had a good meeting with the Wisconsin Ag Coalition. Rachel came to that as well, and we discussed various issues from water quality and other pressing priorities for them. I got to attend the Wisconsin Outdoor Consortium, the second meeting of that group. Robin, thank you for coming. I think that's a really good and productive and diverse group that represents natural resources interests across the state. And then yesterday I got to go to the state fair, which was really fun. Well, I hope that everybody gets a chance to get down there and see the pride of the ag industry and many others across the state. I also wanted to just quickly mention an info item that we're going to tee up for the next meeting, just because about this time last year, we were talking about air quality, obviously not here as it pertains to ozone, but I know that we've all been really impacted by the fires over the last course of the month. So I just wanted to give a little preview of that briefing and just some of the work that we've been doing, because it's really impressive, the work that our team does to really protect the air quality across the state. The impacts in air quality in Wisconsin were really significant over the last month. Of the state's 15.5 particulate matter PM 2.5 monitors, 13 recorded the highest values in over 20 years, and the daily average concentration of PM 2.5 on July 16th reached the hazardous air quality index level at 10 of the 15 monitors, so really significant. The Air Quality Index is a tool for communicating about air quality and health, with 6 categories corresponding to different levels of health concern. Hazardous corresponds to a health warning of emergency conditions where everyone is more likely to be affected. Our air management program issued air quality advisories, coordinated with the National Weather Service, local media outlets, and DHS to share information on the event and coordinate messaging on health impacts. And representatives from forestry, air management, the Office of Communications are going to join the September board meeting to share an informational presentation about what caused this event to be so severe, the 2026 wildfire season, and the importance of collaboration and partnership as we respond and communicate with the public throughout these increasingly frequent and disruptive events. I just wanted to give you a little preview of that just because I was really impressed over the last month about the work our team has been doing in coordination with many others, federal and local governments, just to really try to keep people safe during these events. And I'll turn it back to you, Robin.
All right, thank you. We look forward to that and many other topics as well.
Yeah.
All right, so our next item is approval of the agenda for today's meeting, August 13th, 2026. Are there any changes to the agenda? Does anyone want to make a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, motion by Rachel, second.
Second.
Second by Bill. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That much, we are onto the agenda then. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. As you know, these items are put in here that are have been deemed to not necessarily have to have discussion. So I'll read the consent agenda, and then if anybody wants to have anything pulled from there, we can deal with that afterwards. So the consent agenda is A, approval of briefs of action from June 24th, 2026. B, acknowledgement of donation. The Dane County Land and Water Resources Department Parks Division donated infrastructure improvements valued at $110,585. This donation will be used to provide additional parking for users accessing the Lower Wisconsin State Riverway. Item C, acknowledgement of donation. The Friends of Peninsula State Park donated the Highland Lot Storage Building valued at $150,000. This donation will be used to store and protect trail grooming and maintenance equipment at Peninsula State Park. Item D, acknowledgement of donation. The Friends of Peninsula State Park donated $32,100 to fund seasonal natural resources educators at Peninsula State Park. Item E, acknowledgement of donation. The Friends of Lakeshore State Park donated $22,000. This donation will be used to support natural resources programming and staff wages. Acknowledgement of donation. The Newport Wilderness Society donated $54,000. This donation will be used to support staffing costs for natural resource educators. Item G, acknowledgement of donation. The Friends of Horicon Marsh donated $39,000 to the Bureau of Wildlife Management. This donation will be used to support Horicon Marsh LTE expenses. Item H, acknowledgement of donation. The Kasurik Trailhead Foundation donated Phase 1 of the trail system to be developed at Rib Mountain State Park, valued at $437,362. This donation will be used to enhance trail recreation opportunities at Rib Mountain State Park. Item I, acknowledgement of donation. The Friends of Mackenzie Environmental Center donated a track chair valued at $21,270 to support universally accessible recreation. Item J, acknowledgement of donation. The Friends of High Cliff State Park donated $92,000 to High Cliff State Park to fund a reroute of Indian Mound Trail. And lastly, item K, acknowledgement of donation. The Friends of Wisconsin State Parks donated $75,000 to the Wisconsin State Park System. And with that, we have over $1 million of donations that we have received in this month alone. Do I hear a motion?
I move approval of the generosity of our citizens and our partner groups.
Great.
I'll
Moved
second.
moved by Bill, seconded by Jeff Hastings. Thank you so much. And for all of the people who are involved in these friends groups and organizations, just heartfelt thanks. And during these budget times, this is so critical for us to have. So thank everyone. All right, so there are no items. Did we take a vote?
Not yet.
All right. So I'll ask, is there any further discussion on this? All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any- No opposed. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for keeping me on track. All right, so no items have been removed from item 3, so we'll move on to item 4, action items. And we have, the first item is a scope statement, a request that the board approve the statement of scope for board order WY-19-25 and conditionally approve a public hearing and submittal of the proposed rules to the Legislative Council Rules Clearinghouse. This rule package affects chapter NR 105 and updates numeric water quality criteria for toxic substances for the protection of human health. And Laura Dietrich, you are here virtually, I believe. And we'll turn it over to you for further explanation. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Good morning, Chair Schmidt, Secretary Hun, and members of the board. My name is Laura Dietrich, and I'm the Water Evaluation Section Manager with the Wisconsin DNR's Bureau of Water Quality. As Robin mentioned, I'm here today to request approval of the scope statement to update Chapter NR 105 for revisions and additions to human health criteria for toxic substances in surface water. Next slide, please. Has the slide
Yeah.
advanced? I
No,
don't.
they're working on it. Just a second.
Okay.
I think it's showing up on computer monitors, but not on the screen. There we go.
There
Go
we
ahead,
go.
Laura. Sorry about that.
No problem. As you can see from this slide, we are currently at the beginning of the rulemaking process. The purpose of the scope statement stage is to first determine whether the rulemaking should occur, and second, what the scope of the rulemaking should encompass. What we do or do not include in the scope statement is important because that will set sideboards for what can be revised during this process. Today, we are asking for input whether the scope is appropriate for our effort. And throughout the rule revision process, there will be more opportunities to provide input on the content of specific details and framework of this rule. The statement of scope was published in the Administrative Register on June 22nd of 2026. JCRER did not request a preliminary hearing, so we were able to move directly to approval for today's meeting. Next slide, please. As previously stated, the objective of this proposed rulemaking is to update Chapter NR 105, which includes our state's human health criteria for toxic substances in surface water bodies. Human health criteria are established to protect human health when exposed to surface water. EPA updated a group of non-metal toxic substances and national exposure factors. This update is prompting the need to update criteria for Wisconsin water bodies and revise our exposure factors to be representative of individuals within Wisconsin that use these waters for the consumption of locally harvested fish and the ingestion of water, either through public drinking water supply or incidental ingestion through recreation. Body weight, drinking water intake rate, and fish consumption rates that include a statewide average consumption rate and subsistence consumption rate may be considered as part of the risk assessment portion of our criteria calculations. These changes will be considered with input from the tribes and a diverse group of stakeholders, including industry representatives, conservationists, and other department and agency experts. We will seek this input through a technical advisory committee and will periodically provide additional updates to tribes on the rules progress. Next slide, please. This figure provides a visual representation of what the human health criteria are designed to do. The criteria are calculated such that an individual's exposure over a given to a given substance over one's entire lifetime, so from infancy through older adulthood, should not result in adverse health outcomes. Exposure routes that are factored in are the ingestion of surface water and locally harvested fish. In the figure, the criterion is represented by the orange horizontal line. This is the established through establishing a numeric value that is unique to each substance that will be taken into consideration. Cumulative exposure at levels below the criterion is not expected to result in adverse health outcomes, thereby upholding the goal of protecting human health. Next slide, please. So the purpose and impact of this rule, there were 94 substances included in EPA's human health criteria updates, and Wisconsin has existing criteria or secondary values for some of these that are relevant to the state's water bodies. For additional context, 47 of Wisconsin's existing human health criteria will likely need to be updated And that could include either becoming more stringent or less stringent than what our current values are. And an additional 16 substances that currently have secondary values based on historic needs to calculate values for wastewater dischargers or remediation decisions will need to be updated and promulgated into rule. Very few permitted wastewater facilities in Wisconsin discharge toxic substances, and we anticipate that fewer than 10 facilities may receive new or revised effluent limits based on these criteria updates. It's also important to point out that there are other toxic substances like metals and PFAS compounds, but these are not included in EPA's updates and are not planned to be part of this rulemaking effort. Next slide, please. So again, I appreciate the opportunity to share this information with the board and can offer to take any questions that you have at this time.
I would note that we do not have any speakers on this topic. So is there a discussion from the board? Bill?
Just a real quick question. Laura, this rule is primarily meant to bring state standards into closer alignment with federal standards and guidelines.
That's correct.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I guess, Laura, I just have a follow-up question to that. If the department doesn't do this, does it put us at risk with funding or authorities from the federal government?
It could potentially, it's hard to say, but yes, it definitely, kind of weakens our authority in some areas. So.
Any other questions?
I'm just curious, the distinction between surface water and groundwater. Do we have these existing standards for groundwater as well, or is this just a first stab with surface water?
So this rule specifically addresses surface water. Any like updates to values for like our groundwater standards would include a separate rulemaking effort. The substances included in here, I don't know if we have current groundwater standards or if there are plans to develop any, but certainly something that we could look into further.
Thank you.
I had a question about, I see this EPA ruling was in 2015 and just the time it takes to have the DNR focus on updating our own standards. And could you just comment, is it just, staffing, time, and just priorities? It's just, there's a lot of work to do and not enough staff and time to do it. And we're just finally kind of catching up with this one.
Yeah, that's a good way to summarize it. We did have some other work priorities come up. So we were directed to work on our PFAS criteria, the criteria that we currently have in place, and some other rules that were in the process. And then, like you mentioned, Mike, staffing issues and, just not having the capacity to be able to work on these projects.
Any further discussion? Oh, Doug, thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Laura, for the updates. So my question is, in the triennial review, when was the last triennial review? And wouldn't we have done this at triennial review, or is that just something we don't do during review?
Yeah, so this work has been identified in our triennial review process, I believe, for the last couple cycles. And again, kind of due to other priorities and capacity, it did make it to a higher priority on our current triennial standards review cycle, and is part of the reason why we're picking it up now. But how it works is we do need to go through like the rulemaking effort in order to, adopt these criteria within rules.
All right, thank you.
Do I hear a motion?
Also move.
Moved by Jeff Hastings. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, I'm going to give it to Doug.
Fair enough.
Doug seconded. Just because there's a second delay in us hearing him.
Beat me to it.
Not
All
gonna
right.
Get your name in the minutes.
Next time.
Any further discussion? Okay, I'll call a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Good luck, Laura. Thank you for your presentation, and I hope the process goes well.
Yes, thank you for your time.
We'll see you back here again sometime. The next item up for agenda is item 4B, request that the board approve the statement of scope for emergency board order NH-10-26E and board order NH-11-26 and conditionally approve a public hearing and submittal of the proposed rules to the Legislative Council Rules Clearinghouse. This rule package affects Chapter NR 12 and is related to wolf depredation claims. And I'm going to turn it over to Scott Carroll, our expert policy specialist for the wildlife program. And I also note that we will have a couple of public speakers after the presentation. And so I'll turn it over to you, Scott. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Schmidt, Secretary Young, members of the board. I am Scott Carroll, Wildlife Regulations Policy Specialist, and we're here today seeking approval of a scope statement regarding wolf depredation claims. Next slide, please. Thank you. So just like the previous item, we're at the scope statement approval part of this process. So unlike the previous scope statement, we did get a preliminary public hearing requested from the Joint Committee of Review of Administrative Rules, or JCRAR. We held that preliminary public hearing on July 30th. 15 people attended the hearing, 4 individuals making an oral statement. We also received 27 written comments during that open public comment period. A summary of both the oral statements at the hearing and the written public comments are found along with the screen sheet package, and I can answer any questions on those comments if the board has any. Otherwise, next slide, please. So just some background information on the scope statement. I think there were 2 slides ahead. Can you go back one? Thank you. So how wolf depredation, or the money that pays out wolf depredation claims, depends on the listing status of the wolf. So when wolves are delisted, the funds come from the sale of wolf license and applications. But when they are on either the state or federal endangered species list, the money just comes out of the budget from the Bureau of Natural Heritage Conservation. And I think it's important to note that when they are listed, there is no dedicated funding that goes along with that listing status. So the wolf depredation funds or the claims just are required to be absorbed by NHC's budget. So again, the listing status does play a big part on where the funds come from. And based on our current projections, so our fiscal years go from July 1st of a year to ends in June 30th of the next year. And we just finished up a fiscal year and are starting a new one. And based on our current funding projections, we believe that it's likely to be insufficient to pay out fully all wolf depredation claims this next fiscal year due to the rising expenses of the claims. Now, we did take some action knowing, we've kind of projected this for a little bit. And when state statute says when wolves are listed and we think that we're about to be out of money, the statute requires that the department seek 1310 funding from the legislature or joint finance. So we did that back in April of this year. And what a 1310 is it just asks the legislature for spending authority for existing funds. And we asked for a 1310 in April of this year. No action was taken by joint finance. So it wasn't an outright rejection, but it wasn't approved either. So we just assumed that it wasn't approved. And so now we're moving on to how can we find other funding? The department is pursuing additional federal grant funding, but it's important to notice that some of that funding is very specific on how and where it can be used. So for instance, the federal funding that we're currently looking at, it's very clear that you cannot use that money to pay for the actual expenses of the claims. You can do it on staffing, or you can pay the money on like materials, but you cannot pay out claims specifically from that money. So there is some hoops that we have to jump through to try to get additional funding to help pay these claims out. Next slide, please. So just want to talk about the objectives of this rule and why we're here with a scope statement. So due to lack of funding, the department is seeking in this rule to prorate claims if needed. And I think that's really important to note, is that we're hoping our number one goal is we want to be able to pay out all the claims fully if we have to. We view this kind of scope statement and rule as a break glass if necessary, but we also want to be prepared should our projections be accurate and the funding be inadequate to pay out all the claims. So in order to prorate claims, we're going to be deferring the payments until the end of the fiscal year, which is again, end of June 2027. And I also want to state that it's important to note that this would actually create what we're seeking to do in this scope statement. It would create a uniform depredation claims process. And I mean that by when I talked about what the legislature required us to do when wolves are on the endangered species list. When they are not on the endangered species list and we're paying those claims out through the fund, the funds of our wolf harvest license and application fees, the legislature tells us what to do if we think that those fees will be inadequate to pay out the wolf depredation claims. And it's essentially exactly what we are seeking to do in the scope statement. So if wolves are off the endangered species list, and we have a harvest season and we're collecting fees and we're running out of money, the legislature says you must hold the claims till the end of the year and prorate them. So exactly what this scope statement would seek to do. And what we're looking to do from this process is so not only create a uniform depredation claims process, but we want through the scope statement and the eventual rule and the public hearing that comes with the rules to provide clarity to the public in the process to be used and how, and we want to receive input from the public about so this is what we will be doing since it is a departure from previous years, but we want to get input on how this process should be done. And so for the next steps for this rule is obviously we're holding claims currently. We want the rule in place as soon as possible to guide this process. So we're looking to bring an emergency rule back to the board in the fall of this year, and then a permanent rule shortly after to follow. So we have that process laid out, and individuals who have depredation claims will know exactly how and when they will receive their funds. And so that's my presentation today. I know we probably have questions and speakers, but I'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you. And I typically we ask if there are technical questions you want to have answered. Otherwise, we'll have the public present their testimony and then we'll have board discussion following that. Does that work for everyone? All right, Scott, hang on. We'll be back. So we have two in-person speakers on this topic. One is Diane Kane from Hickston. Diane, are you here? Come on up. Thank you.
I am Diane Kane. I appreciate the opportunity to share common sense ideas to fund legitimate livestock wolf depredations, but with caveats. Those who practice poor animal husbandry, who do not observe wolf caution areas, who do not monitor their pets in wolf territory, those who expect wolf depredation funds for livestock despite having killed off prey animals, and those who do not practice non-lethal preventative measures should be subject to payouts contingent upon compliance. Wolf depredation claims for missing calves does raise eyebrows. $1,093,522 has been paid out for 1,226 missing calves from 1999 to 2024. Using ear tag IDs would exist. DNR wolf livestock depredation numbers include poultry. Free-ranging poultry are common. Egg layers and meat poultry are generally housed. Poultry are included in payouts, skewing wolf depredation statistics. Lowering property taxes incentivizes pasturing beef cattle in woodlands. Taxes for pasture land are around $3 per acre versus woodland at about $34 per acre. Fencing beef in the woods lowers property taxes, but sometimes at the cost of good animal husbandry. 31 beef calves were killed by wolves in 2025. Funds for livestock producers claiming wolf depredation should be commensurate upon compliance with non-lethal deterrence. 29 of 40 farms with wolf harassment or depredation issues in 2025 were classified as chronic depredation farms. Non-lethal predator prevention should be a prerequisite to receive compensation. Compensation totaling $1,122,251 for 474 bear hounds was paid out in 1987 to 2024. Hounds are killed or maimed as the wolf family defends their territory and pups, often in areas designated as DNR wolf caution areas. Closing the caution area if a second hound is attacked in the same area would be prudent. History tells us removing prey animals from our landscape may force predators to turn to domesticated animals. Multiple hunting seasons and bonus tags allows a family of 4 to kill 20+ deer annually. Unlimited snowshoe hares may be killed year-round with no bag limit for beaver trapped seasonally. Hares, deer, and beaver are important wolf cuisine. Coexistence with wildlife is the responsibility of all custodians of our ecosystem, including farmers and hunters. Indulgent payouts to those who exploit the wolf depredation claim resource will drain the fund. An emphasis on common sense in the statement of scope would prioritize compensation to livestock producers who practice good animal husbandry and present a legitimate depredation claim. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Diane? Thank you. Our next speaker is Karen Mahuna. Karen, are you here? I'm on the written comments. I'm sorry. Let me just move this sheet. I'm sorry. Okay, Melissa Smith. She's virtual.
I am
Okay,
here
thank you.
virtually.
Thank you for joining us.
Hey, thank you. Good morning, Secretary Hunt and Board Chair, members of the board. My name is Melissa Smith, Executive Director of Great Lakes Wildlife Alliance. I want to say today that we are in support of SSO 4326, but only if the board pairs it with the structural reforms this crisis, quote unquote, actually requires. I want to be clear about what's driving this rule. It's certainly not wolves. And it's not rising conflict. Depredation has gone down. Depredation payments have not increased. They've decreased. Verified conflicts are down. Even according to the department's own large carnivore specialist, Wisconsin has over, let's start there, maybe commending the department. We have 58,000 farms statewide with 40,000 inside wolf range. And in a typical year, only roughly 40 farms experience any verified conflict. 40 out of 40,000. So that's, more than 99% of farms in wolf country coexisting successfully. So this is not a crisis of coexistence. It's a manufactured funding crisis. We did a multi-year study of over 1.15 million hound days of landscape exposure, found that the underlying conflict rate is generally rare, but not random. It is driven by identifiable regular conditions, such as wolf caution areas, but they carry no legal force whatsoever. Meanwhile, bears, not wolves, cause the overwhelming majority of hound injuries and deaths in the field. This is a policy failure, not a wolf problem. And I think this is the part that matters most. Once wolves are delisted, depredation payments shift to the Fish and Wildlife account with the hunting fees, which is already 16.5 million in deficit. The very people demanding the wolf hunts, in many cases, the same people are blocking the conservation funding, Nelson Knowles Endangered Resources, that this would stabilize the system. They're holding $30 million basically in a hostage ransom situation. That's not a coincidence. This is a shell game, and I don't believe that the Endangered Species Resources Fund should be what's being sacrificed. So our position is this: we support if we can adopt a mandatory 30-day closure of wolf caution areas, which you have statutory authority for. Environmental circuit breakers suspending hound training during heat and air quality advisories. Restoration of a $25 bear hound training license directed to the Endangered Resource Fund. Mandatory GPS data sharing and full public accounting of endangered resources balances. Compensation without these reforms doesn't buy us any tolerance. It subsidizes the exact unregulated activity driving the conflict it's meant to offset. The department already has authority to fix this, and we are asking the board to help use it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Melissa. Do we have any comments from, or questions from Melissa? All right, we will bring Scott back. Scott?
I'm here.
Yes. Sorry, just clarifying a few things. Just for the audience to be aware of, we have a couple of tables. One is all the people who've submitted us written comments. We get a table that shows what their comments were, who wrote them, things like that. But it looks very similar to our folks who are providing public testimony at the board meeting. So appreciate your patience with us as we move our papers around. So questions for Scott? Bill?
Those written comments that you mentioned are extensive and they represent a lot of relevant questions in this discussion. I would have a question for Scott. Is the proposed language of the scope statement broad enough to enable discussion of some of the different approaches that people are suggesting for handling this financial situation with the depredation payments? Or is it language going to hold us to a very narrow discussion of can we prorate or not?
So it's, that's a good question. If I can summarize it, the hearing that we held and the comments that we received, it was an interesting comment period because not a lot of people took a position on the scope statement itself, but they instead used this opportunity to kind of make some air some grievances, I think, about what they feel like is going on for wolf depredation and compensation. Now, our hands are tied in very, certain instances about what we can and can't compensate for. Statutory language says the department must compensate for livestock, hunting dogs, except for dogs being used to pursue wolves, and pets. So for the comments that said, we shouldn't be, there was comments that said, you shouldn't be compensating for wolves that are pets that are in caution area, or hunting dogs that are in caution areas, or just dogs that are being used to trained on bear. The statute doesn't differentiate between the types of activities that are being done. It's just the only ones that we cannot compensate for are dogs that are being used to pursue wolves in a wolf hunting season. So my answer is kind of complex, and I hope it just depends, right? There were so many things that we received in the public comments about, as far as the comments that said now prioritizing claims, I believe that's something that we could do, right? There was quite a few comments that said that livestock producers should be paid first, and be paid fully. That's something we could take into consideration in any rule, right? It's how the proration happens, if certain ones are exempt for proration, I believe that is something that we could take a look at. But ultimately, I think we really wanted to keep this as, how are we going to prorate? When are the payments going to be made? How are we going to prorate? What's this going to look like for people that have a wolf depredation? And so they have some certainty regarding what am I going to get paid if we don't have enough funds, right? And so did that answer your question, Bill? Because I feel like we got a ton of comments that were very across the board, and it's difficult to say that yes or no, depending on looking at that specific comment, whether that's something that we could do in a scope statement. We do try to keep our scope statements as broad as possible, but we were very focused on saying that this is meant to be a break glass if necessary. We don't know if we'll have enough funds. How are funds going to get paid out if we don't?
You answered the question very well, Scott, and it's the answer I was looking for that says this scope statement will enable some of those suggestions to be considered in regard to timing and priority on payments and how you deal with that between livestock, pets, and hunting dogs and other people that are impacted by this. The range of comments we got, clearly, some of them are statutory authority. Absolutely. Some of them suggested that we don't go forward with this scope. And most of them are comments that would be best addressed during the public hearing process. And when the scope language is when the rule language is being developed and discussed with the public. So I would encourage people that have given us their input in writing and in testimony to continue that input process into the hearing if this scope statement goes forward, and to provide those comments to help guide the language on the subsequent rule proposal. Some of the stuff is clearly legislative and beyond our authority, and so I would encourage that kind of discussion to be available in the hearing process and the language development for the rule. The other question I have is, you've already said that the Natural Heritage Inventory has basically diverted funding to cover these wolf depredation payments. And I'm wondering if there is, if we could be more transparent about what, if any, lost opportunities there are from the use of that funding to move it for depredation payments, what other activities are being sacrificed to do that, and have that as a transparent part of the public information hearing process and the report back to the board.
Yes, definitely. I think that question would best be asked or answered by Drew Feldkirchner, who's the Bureau Director for Natural Heritage Conservation. I believe he is in the room with you today. So if we can call Drew up, if that would be all right.
Yeah, if he's willing to do that, I don't want to put him on the spot, and I think their information is probably more relevant to the board when it comes back to us for a decision, but in terms of public information, if you're able to contribute now, that'd be very welcome.
So Drew Feldkirchner, I'm the Director of the Natural Heritage Conservation. Currently, we're handling it through vacancies. So we have like 4 to 5 vacancies covering about 40% of the counties in the state where we're not doing a lot of on-the-ground work. So that's habitat work, that's work with partners like you saw yesterday on the field trip. A lot of really important work across the state. So I could give you a more detailed description of that. But
Is that redirection of resources part of the overall funding deficit for Fish and Game account? And then this redirection is kind of an additional burden put on your program beyond the actions you've already taken for the deficit?
yeah, I would say that's true.
Okay.
We're all kind of in the same boat across the division. Our funding sources are a little bit different because we rely on these donations. We're not using donations for the wolf claim, so I want to be really clear on that. We are using the match that we get on donations. So that's GPR match that we're using for this. And so that's, depending on the year, it could be 6 to 7% of our budget. When you talk about 4 to 5 full-time positions, we only have 40 full-time positions. So it is significant for us.
I think that's an important part of the discussion here. It's not, doesn't pertain directly to the payment, but it certainly is a peripheral impact that's critical.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Drew, I got a question. This is really unfortunate position you're put into, because the irony is, like, you're working in endangered resources. These are state threatened, endangered. And so the work that isn't getting done, you know, as a board, as ecosystem health, you know, those are the most critical species we're supposed to be focusing the most on. And so that fund is coming and draining some of that work that's getting done. So I hope we're not seeing things potentially, you know, going on list because we don't have the revenue to sort of do the management necessary to kind of protect those species.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation. I mean, I think when the law was put into place, we had something like 20 wolves statewide. And so, of course, there's more depredations. We heard that the depredations have gone down. It's true they went down in I think it was 2025. They went down from the previous year, but that was still like the 6th highest year since we started all this. And if you look at between 2015 and 2025, 8 of the 10 highest years occurred during those times for claims. So the claims have gone up. There's an increase and a trend over time corresponding to the wolf population. And so, yeah, it's just kind of a perfect storm because they're on that federal list. That's what the law says.
I have a question for Scott.
Oh, go ahead. Thank you.
Scott, in your background, you talked about a requested 1310 funding from the legislature. Has that been done in the past, and has the legislature ever acted on that to provide funds for this issue?
Boy, I might have to call Drew back up again on this one. I'm you know, we're in a unique situation because, like, this is kind of a cross species between NHC and wildlife. So NHC pays the bills and wildlife runs the depredation program. Oh, Maggie's there. She can answer it. Yeah.
Thanks, Scott. Maggie Hutter, Director of Management and Budget for the DNR.
Maggie, can you hold on just a second?
Yeah.
Is her mic working?
The in-room speaker's not working, so until we get that.
Just projection, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Maggie Hutter, Director of Management and Budget. So 1310 is a process outlined in statute, and there is a specific statute that says for wolf damage, if DNR doesn't have enough money, we can go to the committee and ask for more money. It has been done before. It was a very long time ago, and it was when DNR had money somewhere else in the agency that we weren't going to spend, and we were able to transfer it from that part of the agency to the NHC program so they could pay the wolf damage claims. Unfortunately, we do not have extra money anywhere in the agency right now, so we don't have somewhere from inside the agency to transfer it to. And the 1310 request that we submitted was to transfer from outside of the agency into the agency. So it's been a long time, but it's not an unprecedented thing.
And there was no feedback from the legislature, just no action taken. They didn't really engage with you on the issue, and
Correct.
thanks.
Doug, did you have your hand up before?
I did, Chair. Bill's question was similar to mine, and I think, this issue was easy to get lost in with the other issues that are in it, but the multitude of comments we've received and even the ones we've heard here, to me are complex and they need to be addressed. I don't know how in a scope statement like this one and the hearings coming up and this rule, get those questions all answered, if not all of them are related to the scope. It's complicated. So, but I do agree with some of the comments that are made. And it seems like in these times of funding crunches and money shortages and looking ahead, not seeing any hope that these funds are gonna be improved, especially while this is listed yet, while the species listed yet. And the DNR's ability to do other things, like you heard from some of the speakers here, it's a management issue, and some of them are controllable, obviously statutorily. Some of them are hard to control, but getting training seasons out of that critical period where dogs are at risk. That there's a lot of issues that could be taken to help alleviate some of these costs that are going out the door for depredation. And it's just a really tough one. And good luck, guys.
Any other questions?
I just was curious with any available cost sharing through the department or otherwise for some of the non-lethal mitigation for livestock producers. Are you involved with anything like that?
Is that directed towards Maggie or?
Yes, Scott, that's
Okay.
for you.
Kind of.
Oh, can you repeat the question? I apologize.
Opportunities for livestock producers to engage with non-lethal protection of their livestock through, if there's cost sharing available for some of those practices, rather than, investing these payments, being more proactive, whether as a department or statewide.
Okay, I'm going to call another help today. So we also have on the line with us Chris Kaiser, who is our damage program specialist. And I think Chris can better explain like kind of the preventative measures and this like kind of how the program exists currently under when they're federally protected. So Chris, are you available?
I am here. I don't know if it'll let me do video. Everyone got me?
Yeah.
We see you now.
Okay. My name is Chris Kaiser. I'm the wildlife damage specialist for Wisconsin DNR. So to answer your question, anytime we do these, and I say we, the department contracts out to USDA Wildlife Services to do the wolf depredation investigations. And so when they go out there, they're going to verify to make sure that, because generally what occurs is there's a depredation. Someone may assume it's a wolf. they go out there and actually verify that it is a wolf and not, say, like a coyote, a bear, or just something completely unconfirmed, stillborn, things along that nature. Once we do get verification of that, we make recommendations, and they do provide non-lethal abatement. So Fladry, scare radios, turbo Fladry, and just so I'm not talking over your head, Fladry is fencing with flags spaced, 10, 20 yards along it. Wolves really don't like it. The thing to keep in mind with any type of non-lethal abatement, aside from predator-proof fencing, is that wolves become accustomed to it. So you can't just permanently leave it on the landscape. They'll just like a dog, they start to figure out, oh, okay, I can work around it and whatnot. So non-lethal abatement works the best as coming and going, if that makes sense. So like when the issues pop up, put it up. They really avoid an area, but if you leave it up too long, they become accustomed, and then it doesn't work at all. And so it's kind of a push pull of try and have the most effective tool on the landscape when it's the most effective, if that makes sense. And then as far as the cost of that, that's provided to them. It's not a cost share. We, through us, through USDA, it gets paid out.
Thanks for jumping on.
No problem.
I guess another clarification with Scott, as far as that timing and the need to prorate dog claims versus those livestock claims. I know that was kind of a particular issue within the ag community.
Can you, I guess, clarify a little bit more, like what the specific question?
So the need to prorate versus first come, first serve.
Sure.
Those claims.
Yeah, so the risk you run, so again, when statute says when the wolves are delisted and we're close to running out of funds, we're prorating. The two options we had here were to hold and prorate if we think we're gonna run out of funds, or we can run the risk of just paying things out and hoping that nothing happens, or that we have enough funds at the end of the fiscal year. The risk with that is you are giving the benefit for farmers, pet owners, people with hunting dogs who have a depredation earlier in the fiscal year. So the risk that runs if we don't prorate and hold is that we run out of money, and then if we paid everybody out first come first serve, a farmer who has depredations in May or June of 2027 runs the risk of getting paid nothing at all because the funds have been depleted, right? So we felt like the better option would be to everybody get a portion of their claim versus people depending solely on the happenstance of when the depredation gets paid out, whether they get paid fully or any money at all, or all their money or no money. So that's why we feel like not only just matching with what the statute says we should do in when wolves are delisted, but this is a more equitable process for everyone so that everybody gets a little bit of something should funds run out.
Thank you.
I just have a comment, and that is clearly there's a lot of interest in the public on this. And so I hope that you get good feedback as part of the hearing process and the rulemaking process for you, assuming we'll have a vote here in just a minute. But if this passes, I think you have a actively engaged community to work with.
Yes, and just to clarify the expectations for the board. So as part of the rule process set out in statute, an emergency rule, the public hearing happens after the board acts on the rule. So the next opportunity for public input, and this goes for the public in general, is when we will be bringing the rule back to the board for board consideration. So in the fall of 2026, when we have that emergency rule, we won't be holding a public hearing beforehand because an emergency rule is short in duration. This legislature says you hold the public hearing after the rule goes into effect. Now it's going to be right around the same time as we'll hold the hearing for the permanent rule because we're going to be moving fairly quickly on these, but we won't have a hearing prior to board consideration of this rule, and that's just because that's how the statute says when we hold the hearing. It's we want public input, happy to receive the public input we did during the preliminary public hearing, but the next opportunity will be at this board when the board takes public comments on items that are on their agenda the next time this is brought before the board.
Go ahead, Bill.
Scott, in the process of drafting the proposed emergency rule, do you have members outside the department that you're working with to get a broader input process to that language?
I don't think we have anything like set up in terms of like seeking like an advisory committee, or normally when we're at the drafting phase, it's done primarily internally. And then we, again, we don't normally do a lot of emergency rules. So in a typical rule process, we draft the rule, we get the public input, and we come back. The benefit of, I guess, having this preliminary public hearing is we've got a taste of what people are looking for here. So we have a good ground game of, okay, this is the public comments that people are seeking. We're gonna take that into consideration. The stuff that we're not prohibited by statute from doing. We're gonna take that all into consideration when we're drafting the rule at this point. But just due to the timing of everything, we're not going to be going out to extensive public input until we go back to the board, just because we want this emergency rule in place. We're already getting claims brought in. I think already in early July, we're getting claims submitted, and we want the process in as soon as we can so that like we can tell the public, this is what will happen with your claim. This is when we'll get paid out and how it'll get paid out. So I guess the answer is, I don't think we have anything specifically planned, but we're always looking for public input, and whatever rule we bring to the board can make edits to that rule based on the public input received during that comment period that is brought before the board before the board gets or considers that item at the meeting. So we're going to take into account everything we've gotten. The board can take into account things that they've heard when it's open for public comment. We're going to do the best we can, but there's not anything specifically that we're going to be going out and seeking public input on while we're drafting or at this stage if the scope's approved.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Doug, I see you have a question.
Yep, thanks, Chair. I'm having some technical issues, but I think I'm getting them worked out. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
All right, so this is a fiscal year issue, is it not, Scott? So it's funding this year that we're talking about?
Yep. So like we had enough for fiscal year 2026. We're projecting not that to be not the case in fiscal year 2027. What happens beyond that, we can't really assume budgets run from for this fiscal year. That's what we're looking at immediately, and then having rules in place potentially beyond this fiscal year should the same situation arise. Like Drew mentioned, costs are increasing overall. 8 of the last 10 highest years were in the last 10 years. So we don't see this as all of a sudden, like, barring some dedicated funding, this is going to keep happening until so we want to just be prepared for the future and have everybody have this be able to be something we can communicate from here on out.
So the permanent rule that would go into effect would carry forward into other years.
Into the future fiscal years, yes.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll move, Deb.
Moved by Deb. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Bill Smith. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Oh,
I would just like to emphasize the point that a lot of the input we've received is really input that's more pertinent to the rule development process and the discussions and hearings that go on as a part of that, and would encourage the public to continue interaction with staff on this throughout.
thank you, Bill. And I would also add, this stuff is confusing. And the fact that the whole point of the emergency rule is to be able to move this forward. But I also think there's a lot of associated related issues that can't be part of this issue. And so I just want to encourage people who are interested, at making your comments as productive as possible, because we do have to follow state law. So if the law says we have to do certain things, we have to do certain things. And if certain things are covered by law, we have to continue to do that. So I just hate that false sense of expectation that, you know, we can somehow do something that's contrary to what state statutes tell us we must do. And those kinds of comments need to go to your legislators and, you know, to have resolution for those issues. All right. All right, we'll take vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. That scope statement and
Yep.
emergency rule order are approved.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'm abstaining from this vote.
Okay, thank you. We'll note that in the minutes that you're abstaining. All right, I was asked if we could take a very short brief now that we have some technical microphone speaker issues here. So if we could take a, hold on, we don't have a clock here either. If we could take a, would 10 minutes enough? Okay, we'll come back here at 9:45. Thank you.
Yeah, oh boy, yeah.
Test one. It was waxing and waning. Louder.
It was like a very muffled bee sound.
Sound like a beehive.
Yeah,
Yeah, like. It was definitely this. Testing 1 2, testing 1 2, test.
Okay.
It's really not that bad, not that big of a,
Okay.
although I mean, other people's hearings may be compromised, so I'm not aware of that kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's, yeah. It's good they're taking.
I feel like
And again, it's fast. so-
Yeah, and some of the problem is, it's like,
No, you're not.
people is like looking back this way. like,
Oh,
And the,
that's
and
the
the
one.
speakers are looking.
Oh, I know, but I didn't know if you were
Like for
waiting.
you, yeah.
No, oh, no,
Kind of facing.
Yeah, we don't.
It's easy.
Yeah. Okay. All right, good, thank you. That's why they're here.
Right, yeah, so if he has to, I see a little split, and then, I don't think we have.
Okay, all right, good.
Are you good with everything now?
I'm just looking at my puppy. My daughter got a new puppy. So saying that the puppy cost 7 months. Yeah. I know. I think I'm gonna call it back right now, close enough. Okay.
So many years.
Oh, I heard it.
Yeah, you. Education. You're doing my own. In my opinion.
I think we're gonna get ready to reconvene the meeting, and thanks for the tech folks to get the speaker working. And we have a strategy that goes out again, so that's all good. So we'll move on to other approvals. And I think this is what I would informally call the Kalen Helm Show. So come on up, Caleb. We have a series of donations. Again, generosity of many partners that we work with. And Kalen, from our real estate section manager, will give us some brief information on each of those donations, and we will move forward after that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Schmidt, Secretary Hoon, members of the board. I'm Kaylin Helm, the Real Estate Section Manager, presenting today on agenda items 4C through 4H. See if it's going to work. There we go. The department is requesting approval to accept 37.63 acres of land for Devil's Lake State Park located in Sauk County. This donation is offered by Feltz's Other Place, LLC, and is accessible to the public through department-owned lands on two sides and through Tower Road. The subject parcel is located entirely within the Devil's Lake State Park project boundary. It includes part of a kettle pond and has elevated relief with views of the Clark Creek watershed to the south. The department currently holds a Baraboo Hills conservation easement on the property, but that does not allow for public access. With acceptance of this donation, the property would be open to all 5 nature-based outdoor activities for the public. Devils Lake State Park is one of the most visited parks in the state with approximately 2.7 million visitors each year. The park offers magnificent views from Quartzsite Bluffs overlooking a 360-acre lake. It provides nearly 30 miles of hiking trails, lakeshore picnic areas, swimming, paddling, and year-round naturalist programs. So with that, the department is recommending the acceptance of 37.63 acres of land for Devils Lake State Park from Phelps's Other Place LLC. Also, that a certificate of appreciation be sent to the donor and that an expression of appreciation be made a part of the official records of the Natural Resources Board. And I am happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. And we do not have any public comments on these land acquisitions. So is there discussion from the board? Bill?
Within the past couple of years, we had another parcel in this same area, Devil's Lake.
Yes.
And there was discussion about potential connections for Ice Age Trail, which I see as another real important asset or aspect of this parcel. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So one of our recent acquisitions that was approved kind of to the north of this parcel is planned for that Ice Age Trail routing to the north of the park and beyond. This one, again, to my knowledge, isn't part of that, but there is current master plan going on. So that is where kind of those defined routes and activities would be planned for. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great blocking.
Yes.
Any other discussion? Do I hear motion?
Observation. It's great to see this acquisition within the property boundary is happening.
Yes, yeah.
Do we have a motion?
Make motion to accept this generous donation.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mike. So motion by Rachel, second by Mike. Mike, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And they will for sure get that acknowledgement and certification. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Caleb, 4D.
All right. So with this one, let me change my slide here. Okay. The department is requesting approval to acquire 1,252.71 acres of working forest conservation easement for the Forest Legacy Easement Program located in Vilas County from the Michael A. Uline Exemption Trust for benefit of Pamela A. Uline dated December 29th, 1998, and the Michael A. Uline Exemption Trust for benefit of Michael J. Uline dated December 29th, 1998. The acquisition falls within the Forest Legacy Program project boundary and would be paid for with $600,000 from a federal Forest Legacy grant and $305,900 from the Knowles Nelson Stewardship Fund for a total purchase price of $905,900. Now, I do want to take a moment and just pause to explain that although the Knowles Nelson Stewardship Fund has ended, as I think you all know, the transactions I am presenting that are funded with stewardship have had those funds encumbered prior to that end date. And that was because we do have contracts with these owners that if approved by the board and governor, we could then proceed with. So hopefully avoid any confusion there. An additional ask of the board is that the department is requesting that the board establish an official name on the subject property of Border Lakes Forest Legacy Conservation Easement. Now, this ask is really to create a unique identifier name for this easement within this larger project area. The property consists of two non-contiguous tracts, the first being 481.47 acres, known as the Forest Lake Tract. The property as a whole is comprised of productive red and white pine, aspen, and mixed northern hardwood forests, along with lowland community types, including wetlands and meadows. The second tract is the 771.24 acre Emma Lake Tract, which encompasses Emma Lake and a small pond. Additionally, nearly 3 miles of Land O'Lakes bike and pedestrian trail winds its way through this property. Acquisition of the easement will protect and preserve the integrity of these important northern forests in perpetuity for public access, specifically the 5 NBOAs, and will promote sustainable management practices. Now, management of the property will remain with the trust, who is enrolled in the MFL certified group, assuring that the forests are managed to the highest environmental and social standards. Forestry ranks among the top 10 industries by output, generating more than 25 billion annually and creating 57,000 jobs. The department has also received resolutions of support of the acquisition from the town of Land O'Lakes and Vilas County. And hopefully is here, but I do have Ron Grapp, our Forest Legacy Coordinator, should be here with us virtually. And he is going to provide some more information on the Forest Legacy Program overall.
Thank you, Kaylin. Good morning, Board Chair Schmidt, Secretary Hahn, and members of the board. It's a pleasure to be here with you once again to talk about the Forest Legacy Program. I'm hoping you can hear me okay. I have a real quick slide deck here. I think of maybe 3 slides. Some of this will be review for most of the board members. I know we do have a new board member, so I wanted to make sure that we provided some additional information for that basic understanding. Basically, the Forest Legacy Program was established going back to the 1990 Farm Bill, so it's been around for quite some time. Established in response to largely the liquidation of industrial timberlands that were occurring primarily in the Northeast. Since then, over 50 states and territories participate in this federal program, so it's been very popular. Also, it is one of the few federal programs that continues to enjoy bipartisan support from both chambers of Congress. And so it's a very popular program, continues to be fully funded at the congressional level from the Land and Water Conservation Fund. Here in Wisconsin, our legacy program is focused on protecting environmentally important forest areas threatened by conversion and non-forest use. That's principally the primary and principal purpose of Forest Legacy. A close second, if not equally, is to keep working forests working. Our conservation easements allow for the traditional uses consistent with the purpose of the easement, forest management, recreation, and public access. Next slide, please. I include this slide to talk about the value and benefit of conservation easements, and the graphics here, I think, really tell a compelling story. I'm 35 years into my career here, and we've been talking about forest fragmentation and parcelization my entire career. And the likelihood is we'll continue to talk about this issue. It's a longstanding issue. The Forest Legacy Program, with the acquisition of conservation easement, looks to reduce the rate of conversion, or hopefully altogether eliminate it. That would be really great. But to reduce that rate of conversion to non-forest use due to fragmentation and parcelization. We also know that smaller parcelized land is more challenging and difficult to manage within a broader landscape. Once it's broken apart, it's really difficult to put it back together. The graph on the right-hand side of the slide here really represents the trend that we've continued to see over the last almost 30 years in terms of large landowners, private industrial landowners enrolled in one of our very important and popular programs to manage forest law. And so what this graph represents is back in 1999, we had about 1.1 million acres enrolled in the managed forest law. And over time, we've seen this downward trend toward enrollment. Now, it's not exactly a one-to-one correlation, but it's a really good barometer that tells us what's happening with large private industrial landowners in Wisconsin. And that is they're divesting of their ownership interests. And we know that keeping these large tracts of timberland in contiguous chunks and in forest production is really important in terms of sustaining our wood products industry here in the state of Wisconsin. And so for these two reasons, we look to provide this incentive for landowners to protect their property with a conservation easement. Doing so, the land remains on the tax rolls and in private ownership. We have some administrative oversight with ensuring the terms and conditions of the easement are maintained. But in exchange for the acquisition of the conservation, we get good conservation done on the ground with public benefits, access, wood products, wildlife habitat, and things in those regards. Next slide, please. And just a real plug here for Wisconsin's Forest Legacy Program. Since we've been part of the program, we've been part of the program since 2000. So a little over 25 years now, and over that course of that time frame, we've protected north of 360,000 acres statewide. And the map on the right-hand side of the slide here kind of shows the distribution of where, for the most part, our larger acquisitions are located in the state. I'll end with a message to the board about the Border Lakes project. This has been a project that's been in the works for a little over 2 years now. And as I've come to know Mike and his family, Mike's about 90 years old now, and he's hanging in there. Mike and I spoke as recently as yesterday about this project, and they're just really so excited about the ability to protect this property. Mike is making good on a promise to protect this land from it being parcelized, sold into smaller chunks. This is a promise that he has agreed to follow through from his parents when he inherited land. So I just wanted to share that and pass that along to the board for your awareness. And with that, I'm going to take a pause and yield the floor if there aren't any questions.
Go ahead, Mike.
Not a question. I just want to echo Ron's comments as in this program as a forester who's worked in northern Wisconsin, who deals with a lot of public lands, and we have a lot of historic timber company land that's really drying up and getting sold. And the ability to just the working forest model, this conservation easement, especially here, like adjacent to the Board of Commissioner of Public Lands, connectivity to larger landscape level management. The county forest is not that far away. Just the threat of fragmentation in lake country like this. So anytime you have a parcel this size to keep intact, I mean, it's been a huge change in northern Wisconsin just to watch these big open MFL industrial tracts sort of dry up and people actually lose land access that they historically had through large, just public access hunting opportunity, but even the working forest model. This is really exciting. And as a forester, it's really cool to see these programs in place to protect working forest lands in northern Wisconsin. So it's a big part of who we are in the north. And so efforts like this sort of kind of keep that in play. So it's a great program, totally supportive.
Bill?
Question while we've got Ron up. Ron, the funding of this request is a combination of federal forest stewardship money and Knowles Nelson stewardship state money. What's the match required on these forest legacy projects?
Yeah, it's a great question. Thank you, Bill. Yeah, let me just explain the funding on this particular project. Under normal circumstances, the funding through the Forest Legacy comes through the Land and Water Conservation Fund. And typically the use of that funding provides up to 75% for the cost of the acquisition, and we have to make up another 25% match, and that 25 can come from a number of different sources, right? And so you're probably wondering why we're a little off with the 75-25% match on this one. The funding for this particular project, in addition to a few others that we've recently acquired, came from the Inflation Reduction Act. And about $700 million additional dollars got pumped into Forest Legacy. A portion of that $700 million was carved out for what they called small strategic legacy projects. The 75-25 still match still is required. However, one of the requirements with the use of the IRA funding was that they had to be touching or contiguous to other protected or conserved lands. And so the Forest Lake Tract certainly is, as it butts up against the BCPL land. The Amo Lake Tract, however, is not, or does not. It is not contiguous to other protected lands. So the funding, the federal funding could not be applied to that particular tract, unfortunately. But the landowners wanted that tract protected as well. What we were able to do was, because the appraised value for the Forest Lake Tract came in a little lower than we anticipated, we were able to use the entire $600,000 federal grant funds toward the Amo Lake Tract as well. And then the balance of that was made up through the KNSP funding component. So it's not exactly a 75-25. It's about, 2/3, 1/3 match, but we were able to fully utilize the federal source funds for this acquisition.
Thanks for explaining that, Ron. The point I was pushing at is partly that, but more general, the need for state match to make some of these federal projects go. And the fact that Knowles Nelson stewardship money was a very important lever here to initiate and be able to use that federal money and do wonderful things for the public here in Wisconsin.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the use of Knowles Nelson in these acquisitions has historically been our go-to source of money for these. In the absence thereof, we have to get a little bit creative with coming up with that 25% match, either as donations from landowner, interest in land value from the landowner, private donations and things like that. So it makes their job a little bit more difficult in the absence thereof, but we're very lucky to have Knowles Nelson in this regard.
Thank you.
I had a question for Ron. That 600,000 from the Federal Forest Legacy Grant, what is the max that one can apply for a single project? Is it 600,000? Is that the max, or is there different amounts?
No, that's not the max. So the IRA funding is now gone away. That's all been obligated, so that's no longer available. So we're continuing to use source funds through LWCF. States can submit up to, if I remember correctly, and this is under the current FY28 guidance for Forest Legacy projects, I think states can submit up to 5 projects with a max of $30 million ask. No single project can exceed $20 million.
Oh, wow.
And just to put that into context, Forest Legacy gets funded to the tune of about $95 million through LWCF. And the program is very competitive. Again, we've got over 50 states and territories who participate in this program. And on average, roughly between 12 and 15 projects get selected for funding at the national level. So it's a very competitive process.
The reason I bring it up is we've accessed through Landmark Conservancy a community forest grant, which was through the Forest Service, and that got hit pretty hard in the last go around. And I think we could cap it at like 500,000 or 600,000 projects. But yeah, that's good to see that solid financing at the federal level or funding for projects like this.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Do I hear a motion?
Madam Chair,
Okay, it was moved by Mike. Doug, you want a second?
I'll second, Chair, but do we need the motion to state specifics on the name change as well?
Is that something you want to come up with right now?
So that was for the first, let me go back here.
That is part of the ask, is for a unique name of Border Lakes Forest Legacy Conservation Easement.
Can we do that in one motion?
That's a good question.
Yes, Molly has her thumb up. So Mike, would you like to take a friendly amendment to include the naming of that one parcel?
Yes.
Okay.
Take that.
And then Doug, are you comfortable with seconding that?
Yes, I'll second that.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you
All
for
right.
that great explanation too. And
Thank you. Thank you, Ron.
yes.
Thank you.
All right, you're on to item E, the land acquisition for Governor Knowles State Forest in Burnett County.
Yes, thank you. Okay, the department is requesting approval to acquire 64.9 acres of land for the Governor Knowles State Forest located in Burnett County from Jerry and Joe Louise McNally. The acquisition would be paid for with Knowles Nelson Stewardship Funds for the bargain sale price of $185,000. The parcel is located entirely within the state forest project boundary and also is accessible to the public through adjacent department-owned lands on two sides and its frontage on County Highway F. The subject property is comprised of forested uplands and non-forested wetlands. The parcel is currently enrolled in the MFL program, with 37 of the 64.9 acres being an open MFL. So if the subject property is acquired, the entirety of the parcel would then be open to the public for the 5 nature-based outdoor activities. Additionally, remote camping would be provided upon request for members of the public looking for a less developed camping experience. Governor Knowles State Forest is located along the St. Croix River and serves as an extended resource protection zone for the St. Croix National Scenic Riverway. Other objectives of the state forest include management practices to emphasize scenic beauty, water quality protection, wildlife habitat, forest production, and recreation. The department has also received resolutions in support of the acquisition from the town of West Marshland and Burnett County. So with that, the department is recommending the acquisition of 64.9 acres of land for the Governor Knowles State Forest from Jerry and Joe Louise McNally for the bargain sale price of $185,000. I'm happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
That is a bargain sale. I mean, they had a conservation mindset. Is that what?
Yes, that is my understanding. So, yes, this is $62,000 lower than the appraised value.
And just to be clear, because I asked that at a previous meeting, that term bargain sale is an official name you use when the cost comes in under appraisal. Is that right?
Correct, when the landowner accepts less than that appraised offer. Yep.
I thought maybe there's like a bake sale.
No,
Just
that'd be fun.
Just wanted to clarify that.
Robin, I'd like to move approval of this acquisition request. And in that approval, I'd like to call attention to the Jerry McNally family, long-term conservation supporters in Burnett County, Governor Knowles, Crex Meadows. They've been generous in the past, and they're very generous with this partial donation. And with that, I would move approval.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second by Deb.
Second by Deb. Thank you, Deb. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And thank you, Bill, for recognizing the contributions from the family. So, all right, Kaylin. Land acquisition for Green Bay West Shores Wildlife Area in Oconto County.
Thank you. The department is requesting approval to acquire 103.58 acres of land for the Green Bay West Shores Wildlife Area Rush Point Unit located in Oconto County from the Fraser Living Trust dated November 17th, 2010. The purchase price is $290,000. $92,122.80 would be paid for with a North American Wetlands Conservation Act grant, and the remaining $197,877.20 would be paid for with a Natural Resource Damage Assessment Restoration grant. The parcel is located entirely within the Wildlife Area Project boundary and is accessible to the public through adjacent department-owned lands on 3 sides, as well as its frontage on County Highway Y. The subject property is comprised of a mix of bottomland forested wetlands, lowland brush, and stream shoreline. It includes over 6,000 feet of Lake Michigan tributary frontage on Thomas Slough and 2 unnamed tributaries. The parcel provides fish and nursery habitat for a variety of fish species, including northern pike, perch, and other game fish. The larger parcel will also serve as an important migratory bird stopover habitat. The Green Bay West Shores Wildlife Area is part of the largest freshwater estuary in the world, and the coastal marshes and wetlands in the Rush Point unit are some of the best remaining on the Wisconsin shoreline of Lake Michigan. The subject property will be open to the public for all 5 outdoor nature-based activities. So with that, the department is recommending the acquisition of 103.58 acres of land for the Green Bay West Shores Wildlife Area Rush Point Unit from the Fraser Living Trust dated November 17th, 2010 for the sale price of $290,000. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Other questions? Fabulous piece of property. Does someone want to make a motion for approval of this acquisition?
I'll make the motion for approval.
Moved by Rachel. Is there a second? Second by Mike. All right. Any further discussion on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations. Right. And Kaylin, you're up.
I am again.
Land acquisition for the Upper Wolf River Fishery Area in Langley County. And I want to make a note that we don't have public speakers on this, but we did receive 7 written comments that were very supportive of what you're trying to do here.
Thank you. Okay, the department is requesting approval to acquire 118 acres of land for the Upper Wolf River Fishery Area located in Langley County from the Lawton Revocable Trust dated April 9th, 2004. The purchase price is $483,000, and $288,000 will be funded from the Knowles Nelson Stewardship Program, with the remaining $195,000 funded with land sale proceeds. There is also currently a small cabin and outhouse on the property, which the department plans to remove if acquired. Therefore, the department is also requesting approval of the use of $24,150 of Knowles Nelson stewardship funds towards reclamation costs. The parcel is located entirely within the Upper Wolf River Fishery Area project boundary and is accessible to the public through adjacent department-owned lands and easements on portions of all 4 sides, as well as through frontage on Wolf River Landing Road. Okay. The subject property is comprised of forested land and approximately 13,404 feet of Wolf River frontage, including both banks and 10 islands. Additionally, the property contains frontage on Big and Little Slough Gundy Rapids, both of which are Class 2 rapids and very popular with whitewater rafting and boating enthusiasts. These rapids also do provide critical trout habitat as well. The Upper Wolf River Fishery Area was established in 1966 and is comprised of several department-owned properties being primarily wooded and wild. The Upper Wolf River is a Class 2 trout stream and considered an outstanding resource water. The Upper Wolf River has become a major Midwest destination for whitewater sports and is annually the site of privately sponsored races for rafts, canoes, and kayaks, which draw hundreds of contestants and thousands of spectators. The subject property would be open to all 5 nature-based outdoor activities and will improve the connectivity of department ownership along the Upper Wolf, as well as expand recreational opportunities. So with that, the department is recommending the acquisition of 118 acres of land for the Upper Wolf River Fishery Area from the Lawton Revocable Trust dated April 9th, 2004 for the sale price of $483,000, and also that $24,150 of Knowles Nelson stewardship funding be used for reclamation on the site. I'm happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions?
No, a lot of excitement about this parcel from the letters of support and
And I know we had good discussion as part of the master planning for that area
Right.
too. So this ties in really nicely with
Yep.
that.
Yeah.
Would someone like to make, oh, go ahead, Bill.
Just to add on to Jeff's comment, one of those written ones was particularly moving, and I'd like to draw everybody's attention to it. It was a letter submitted by Bill Stokes, a journalist, and he related a lifetime of experience of fishing on the Wolf River with the Lawton family and the impact it had on him and his development as a person and an adult. And I thought it was just a tremendous read, and it was a great example of the deep impact exposure to these resources can have with young people and the impacts on them throughout their life. And if you want to be motivated, just take a look at that. It's a wonderful piece.
Thank you.
Yeah, Bill, I'd like to reading that and just how excited they are to see it go into public ownership. I mean, I think somewhat statewide, the narrative is, hey, where's this land, how much land, or who's paying for it? There's a lot of advocates for the work we're doing, and these are, specific project boundaries and really important parcels, and people it was neat to read the letters of support and just how excited they are to see it sort of move into perpetual public ownership.
Agree with you 100%. The whole piece was about the impact it had on him personally and his excitement about being able to share that with future generations.
I agree and had the same impact. And I think that's the mentality of good land stewards. And to quote colleagues, it's not ours, it's just our turn. And, wanting those lands to be held forever for future generations to make those memories and have that connection to that piece of land is so important. So I'm excited to check this one out too.
Doug?
Yep, same, Madam Chair. I think that was moving, and I can tell you by personal experience, having spent a lifetime on the banks of that river in the north part of the state, how special it is. So it's worth this action, and I'm going to make that motion to approve.
Thank you, Doug. And can you confirm that your motion includes the cost of reclamation costs as well? So
Yes.
okay, for the acquisition.
I'll include the cost of reclamation costs.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jeff. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. Great piece of property and great news.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, item H is the land acquisition for the Willow Flowage Scenic Waters area in Oneida County. Kaylin?
Yep, thank you. Oh, that's okay. Slides are coming. The department is requesting approval to acquire 77.01 acres of land for the Willow Flowage Scenic Waters area located in Oneida County from the Kenneth W. Aldrich Living Trust dated February 6, 2006. The purchase price is $231,050 and will be funded from the Knowles Nelson Stewardship Program. The parcel is located entirely within the Willow Flowage Scenic Waters area project boundary and is accessible to the public through adjacent department-owned land to the south and its frontage on Camp 9 Road. Acquisition of the subject property would add 1.5 miles of river frontage and additional recreational opportunities in this area. This corridor is very popular for canoeing and kayaking, fishing, and wildlife viewing, and it's known for its undeveloped nature and solitude. The Willow Flowage Scenic Waters area is an outstanding resource waters designation, and acquisition of this stretch of frontage will allow for property management along the corridor that protects water quality of the Tomahawk River, Lake Nokomis, and Middle Tomahawk River watershed. This parcel would be open to the public for all 5 nature-based outdoor activities, and the department has received resolutions of support from the town of Monaco and Oneida County. So with that, the department is recommending the acquisition of 77.01 acres of land for the Willow Flowage Scenic Waters area from the Kenneth W. Aldrich Living Trust dated February 6, 2006 for the sale price of $231,050. With that, I'm happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? Another fabulous acquisition, and really appreciate landowners who are willing to make this transaction possible.
Yes, agreed.
Is there a motion?
I move approval.
Moved by, I almost said Chair Smith. Moved by Bill Smith. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Rachel. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Kaylin, I think you're off the
That's it.
hook.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you for that
Thank you.
information and for
Yeah.
all the work that your
Yeah,
program
exciting.
does. Okay, the next item as far as needing approval is the acceptance of a donation. And I just want to make a note that typically these become part of the consent agenda, but because this donation is used for research, the board will need to vote to accept it as an individual item in order to make that transaction happening. We don't have any public speakers for this item and no written comments. Karen, your name is listed as, if you have any information you feel the need to share with us. Otherwise, I think it's pretty clear. I'll go ahead and just read it. Acceptance of donation. Dairymen's Foundation Incorporated donated $15,000 to the Bureau of Fisheries Management, Office of Applied Sciences. This donation will be used to support a DNR-funded PhD student at the UW-Madison Center for Limnology. So again, it's research-based, so we have to make this as a standalone item for approval. Is there any discussion? Do I hear a motion?
This is Deb. I move acceptance of the donation.
Okay, moved by Deb. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mike. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Motion is approved. All right, so we just had a little bit of break. Are people okay if we go and start the open forum? All right. So, so the next agenda item is our open forum. And for our speakers who are presenting information as part of our open forum, we ask that you keep your presentation to 3 minutes or less. And there's a little light system here, and there's also a timer for those who are presenting virtually. If you need more time, you're welcome to submit the whole of your comments in writing to Ashley, who will forward them to us. In order to help you monitor your time, we do have this system of timers, and we ask that you bring your comments to a close when you're alerted that your 3 minutes is up. For our speakers presenting virtually via Zoom, we have implemented a timer again that appears on the top right corner of your screen, so you also have the ability to recognize when your time is coming to a close. We're very grateful that the speakers honor the time limit and close their comments when the time is appropriate. And I also want to make sure that people understand that the open forum is not typically a time when the board debates a particular topic. Topics that you discuss with us have not been public notice for discussion and/or action. But we do listen to you. We ask clarifying questions if needed, and we consider your thoughts for future agenda items or actions as warranted. Also, please understand that some topics that are brought forward during open forum may be outside the scope of DNR authority, and there's little response that we can do at that time. We are able to, we're required to follow the state statutes. Some of these issues that have come before us really require legislative action. So we appreciate hearing about them, but also understand that we can't change state law. That's a different governing body to do that. So I will go to the speakers list. And the first person we have in open forum is Marianne Wise, speaking to us about CAFOs. Welcome, Marianne. Thank you for coming.
Good morning. Good morning, Madam Chair, committee members, Madam Secretary. Welcome to the West Coast of Wisconsin. My name is Marianne Wise. I live on a Century Farm about 2 miles from the Long property as the bird flies that you toured yesterday. I am a past board member of the Lake Pepin Legacy Alliance, which knitted together, our terrific staff knitted together the Minnesota DNR, the Wisconsin DNR, the Army Corps of Engineers, I know, right? And really helped get that project that you toured yesterday done. But I'm here today to bring awareness to something inland from the beautiful properties that you toured yesterday. Also, I live right above Pine Creek, which I hope you stopped at yesterday too. Pretty fabulous. and that is the topic of CAFOs, or concentrated animal feeding operations. They are industrial scale livestock operations that have been operating in Pierce County for about 25 years. But something has changed, and that is the scale of these operations have grown dramatically, while the safeguards designed to protect our communities have not kept pace. Ridge Breeze Dairy, CAFO in Salem Township, is a clear example. It's owned by a corporation based across the state, 238 miles away in Appleton, far from the community that will bear the consequences of its operation. At full capacity, Ridge Breeze can house 7,800 cows under an 11.5 acre barn, making it one of the largest industrial operations in western Wisconsin. When Ridge Breeze arrived in our community, many of us began asking questions we had never thought we'd need to ask. Are the county and state regulations strong enough for an industrial operation of this size? Who bears the financial risk if something goes wrong? Are our water, air, roads, emergency services, and public health adequately protected? We took a hard look at the regulatory system. What we found should concern everyone, not just those who live next door to a massive industrial development like Ridge Breeze CAFO. I know my time is going to run out here. I've got 34 seconds, and unless I can fast forward, it's not going to happen. But I'm really grateful to Ashley, who distributed my comments. They should all be before you. And I welcome an opportunity to discuss these super important issues in my community at another time. Thank you so much, and thank you for your volunteer service.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Sue Curtis from Hudson, and this is also on CAFO permitting. Welcome, Sue. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Sue Curtis. I am the current president of St. Croix Cures. It's Citizens Uniting for Responsible Environmental Stewardship. We're here today to talk about CAFOs. We are a 501c3 with a mission to protect the St. Croix Valley and its resources. And we're here because of the degradation that we see in our rivers, lakes, and our groundwater. I too have memories of being on the Wolf River as a child and the importance of how these rivers and how these waters create and shape our experiences of who we are. We have prepared an executive brief about why we feel it's important for us to rethink how we are permitting the CAFOs in the future. Under a couple different rulings, or excuse me, I would like to present evidence as to why it's important for us to rethink that. And the number one is our constitutional responsibility under the public trust doctrine. Also, the water quality challenges that we see. We have spent as a state millions of public dollars to protect our waters, but nitrate contamination still continues. Phosphorus remains one of the leading causes of impaired waters, and harmful algae blooms continue to increase. More statements are in this brief. I think you have copies of that. CAFO growth and watershed changes. The St. Croix River watershed is an illustration of what's happening statewide. Approximately since the year of 2000, numerous CAFOs have been permitted through western Wisconsin. Farms are fewer but become substantially larger. Manure generation has increased dramatically. Phosphorus impairments are currently an issue. While each permit is evaluated individually, watersheds experience a cumulative effect. So every permit and every manure application and every additional pound of nitrogen and phosphorus applied to the landscape needs to be considered. There's new science that demonstrates the importance of the cumulative effects. A recent 2026 U.S. Geological Survey did a nationwide analysis that says legacy nutrients remain in soils were the largest contributor to nitrogen and phosphorus entering the systems. This is an issue in the Midwest. In your packet, St. Croix Cures has contracted with Dr. Chris Jones. There's a map there that shows the watershed analysis for our area. He used the USD culture data and basically has a comparison that shows the St. Croix watershed, which includes our area plus parts of Minnesota, generates manure equivalent to the waste of approximately 3.2 million people. We only have 1.5 million people.
If you
The
can
rest
bring it
of
to a
your
closure, thank you.
rest of the information here is included in this packet, but we respectfully ask you to look at the permitting process in context of bigger watershed issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Do
Thank
need
you.
Copies of
I think we've got, why don't you give them to Ashley and she'll make sure we get distributed. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Everett. I think he goes by the name Bud Fuchs. Is that correct? Bud Fuchs, thank you. Come on up. Thank you for providing us with written testimony in advance as well.
So can everybody hear me? Is the mic working?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Now, my name is Bud Fuchs. I live in Hudson. I'm here to talk about CAFOs and particularly the DNR CAFO program. These are my personal comments based on a 42-year career in conservation. As a manager of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service DJ Sport Fish Restoration Program, I worked with the Wisconsin DNR Fisheries Program in a cooperative partnership for 27 years. I am the author of the WCC Citizen Resolution to provide permanent and reliable funding for fish and wildlife conservation via 1/8 of 1% sales tax. I share my background so you will understand I am a friend of the DNR. I share that because I am going to share some concerns that may be hard to hear. Through effluent discharges and land spreading of millions upon millions of gallons of liquefied manure, CAFOs are polluting our groundwater, wetlands, lakes, and streams with phosphorus, nitrogen, chemicals, pesticides, antibiotics, pathogens, and fecal coliform bacteria. CAFOs are polluting private wells. CAFOs are causing fish kills and degrading fish and wildlife habitat. The primary concern in resource management is the welfare of the resource itself. This conservation ethic is supported by the public trust doctrine, a basic element of the Wisconsin Constitution. The doctrine requires the state to protect and manage water, fish, and wildlife for the benefit of the resource and the citizens of the state. The state has a legal obligation to protect and manage those resources for their legitimate uses, such as drinking water, fishing, boating, trapping, and swimming. Here's the hard part. The DNR CAFO permit program in the Water Quality Division has been a rubber stamp, approving CAFO applications and failing to include protections for water, fish, wildlife, and public health. For example, in Pierce County, the CAFO program approved an expansion of the Ridge Breeze Dairy CAFO from 1,700 cows to 6,200 cows. This approval will pollute the Rush River, a highly prized trout stream. It will pollute the groundwater. It will discharge more phosphorus to Lake Pepin and the Mississippi River, which are already classified as impaired waters due to high phosphorus. This expansion was approved despite unanimous opposition from local citizens. In response, local citizens raised $45,000 to legally challenge the approval of the permit expansion. There are more problems ahead. The CAFO owners are now looking at moving hog CAFOs from Iowa to Wisconsin because the current density of hog CAFOs is causing problems with the spreading of disease via airborne pathogens. Thus, the water pollution problems in Wisconsin could get a lot worse. The
Doug, if you
CAFO
can-
program must shift its focus to protecting our water, fish, wildlife, and public health in compliance with the public trust doctrine. An independent, interdisciplinary team of experts is needed to recommend program changes needed to accomplish this shift in focus. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Thank you. Our next speaker is Debbie Byer from Hudson, Strengthening Accountability with CAFO Permits. Welcome, Debbie.
Thank you so much for the time this morning, and I will try to keep it very brief, not repeating what those who so eloquently before me have stated in sharing this story of CAFOs. My name is Debbie Byer, and I'm from Hudson, which is just 20 minutes north of here, but I grew up in southeast Wisconsin, which is also seeing plenty of its own CAFO issues. And I've worked throughout the state in my career and kind of alongside DNR and other agencies and citizen groups and so forth. So cutting to the chase, DATCAP, the Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection, figures were put out earlier this summer that the dairy industry in Wisconsin is generating a $52.8 billion industry, which is awesome to have that economic benefit in our state. And it's supported by 1.3-ish million cows, the majority of which are housed within Wisconsin's CAFOs, which, as you've heard, have been, a phenomenon here in the state for at least the last 25 years. There are about 500-ish CAFOs in Wisconsin. And while, all of us, I think, can say that we love the dairy heritage that we have in this state. And, it's nostalgic really to think about the dairy history in Wisconsin and to tout Wisconsin still as being the nation's dairy state, if not the dairy mega kind of empire of the world. That nostalgia quickly fades and maybe even, you might say, becomes nauseating, figuratively and even literally, when one is swimming, fishing, or boating in waters that are unnaturally green or brown from pollution and runoff from agricultural lands around them. Or when neighbors or friends or yourself has well water contaminated with E. coli or high levels of nitrates and you can't drink it, and you know why, and you can see it over the hills where that contamination is coming from. And it really is nauseating to think about the thousands of hours of time and effort that citizens put in as volunteers to try to seek protection for water resources, and the thousands of dollars that they have to take out of their own pockets to fight and protect water resources from CAFO pollution. This is happening in numerous places around the state and has been happening for decades. NR 243 gives DNR the authority to proactively regulate CAFOs and nutrient management planning according to the local environmental conditions. Promoting agricultural best practices has not been enough. The standards need to be based on the local environmental conditions, as NR 243 provides. The $52.8 billion dairy industry, which is now dominated by CAFOs in Wisconsin, can afford to invest
Deb,
and
if you could
better
bring those
monitoring and management of
to a
its
close,
waste.
that would be great.
Wisconsin citizens expect that. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Any questions? I'd like to just make a note before we move on to the next topic, and that is that our September meeting is going to be taking place over in the eastern part of the state. And I believe we're going to have some additional information presented to us at that meeting with respect to CAFO. So your timing is very good, and it's great to hear these comments right now, and we'll see how discussions go at our September meeting. And we will be also visiting a CAFO as part of that tour, I believe. So thank you. Our next speaker in person here is Linda Hendricks from New Richmond, talking about water quality issues. Thank you, Linda.
Hello, my name is Linda Hendricks, and this is Dave Alavsky. We live south of New Richmond, Wisconsin. We have been struggling with high nitrates in our water for years. We bought our brand new built home in 2001. In 2007, I had my water tested through Stevens Point for the first time. We discovered our nitrate level was already 9 milligrams per liter. Knowing that 10 is acceptable standard, I was concerned. Now it is often said that 10 is way too high and this drinking water standard needs to be lowered. From 2007 to June of 2011, I carted water from Walmart for 4 years. Then I discovered that water at those locations need only be 10 milligrams per liter. In 2011, we had an RO system installed. Back then it was $649. I was told recently the price is at least double that now. In 2020, I started having our RO and tap water checked at least once a year. In 2020, our tap was 17.2 milligrams per liter. 2021, 15.1. 2022, 14.3. 2023, 11.38. 2024, 13.1. 2025, 19.9. 2026, currently in May, 16.7. Our neighbors who live right across the street from us in spring of 2025 were 16.9 and 26.05. I am currently a member of St. Croix Cures. I have also worked with Wisconsin Conservation Voters. In fact, with WCV, we went around my neighborhood per my request with flyers and free well test kits to educate people on the possibility of bad water coming from their wells. I have worked with the Alliance for the Great Lakes on their drinking water project called Nitrates on Tap, and I sent that to you all. Wisconsin water is in big trouble across the state. Wisconsin expansions, CAFO expansions, excess manure spreading, poor farming practices, and overuse of fertilizer are causing issues with rural drinking water. I believe the Wisconsin DNR must use the power they were given by the Supreme Court to mandate that large farms use water monitoring wells, tighten up oversight on manure spreading, cap the number of cows permitted by producers, and more. There's a CAFO in Pierce County that's expanding from 1,700 to 6,500 cows. That's 78 million gallons of manure yearly that will be spread on fields in Pierce, St. Croix, and Pepin County. This will only make water worse. We must get a handle on our water in Wisconsin. It's a public health crisis. Our citizens deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Really appreciate it. Thank you. Our next speaker is Dave Clausen from Amory. Dave, are you here? Welcome, Dave.
Morning. My name is Dave Clausen. I want you to know that this fall will be my 69th consecutive deer season opener, and that even though I was a beef farmer for 30 years, venison is my red meat of choice. So my wife Sue and I own around 240 acres of closed MFL forest land in northeastern Polk County. We've been actively managing the Northern Highland Forest on that property since purchasing it in 1990. We have completed several thinnings per our approved forest plan. The last was in 2016 when we did a thinning that consisted of several mini clear cuts. After that harvest, we became part of an ongoing regeneration study by Wisconsin DNR. At first, we were pleased with the regeneration, which consisted of red and white oak, red maple, basswood, sugar maple, white pine, and an occasional black ash. But as time went on, the deer heavily browsed the other hardwood species while completely ignoring the black ash. It soon became apparent that a white-tailed deer were converting our woods from a northern highland species to black ash. One of the last communications I received from the regeneration study group was a notice that by the time the regenerating saplings reached 5 feet in height, the conversion to black ash was 100%. Mature ash has never been a large part of that forest. My next hardwood harvest is due somewhere around 2030. And please tell me how harvesting mature hardwood seed trees, which are the source of my future forest, only to have them replaced with black ash that will never grow to a mature log, is ecologically sound or can be referred to as sustainable forestry. White-tailed deer are no longer an endangered resource, yet we continue to treat them as such. We've engaged in single species management rather than an integrated ecosystem management. Because of declining hunter numbers and legislative action that removed the October antlerless hunt along with earn a buck, two of the most effective tools in controlling the population, the deer herd has grown to historically high levels. That has resulted in severe impacts to the ecosystem, including lengthening of harvest rotation, alteration of forest composition, adverse impacts on forest nesting birds, and a general decline in biodiversity. Perhaps most important is the impact on forest regeneration, demonstrated by DNR's own Deer Metrics regeneration studies. Regeneration failure threatens not only the sustainability of our forests, it adversely affects their ability as a carbon sink and other eco-services that healthy forests provide, like clean water. Time and conversations are not going to solve this, although there is anecdotal reports now that in areas most affected by CWD, there are instances of oak regeneration occurring where it has not been seen for 60 years. Perhaps if we don't solve this, Mother Nature will eventually, but I don't want to wait that long. Any questions?
Thank you.
I do. So I was listening very carefully, your observations, but did recommendations, did you say earn a buck you thought was a effective tool, or what were, I mean,
That's what the experts tell me, is that earn a buck was an effective tool because it forced people to shoot more does than they otherwise were willing to shoot. And I gave you some information. One was the County Forest Association position paper on deer, and I think Mike might be familiar with that.
Yeah, Dave, I appreciate your perspective. Yeah, the WCFA has come out in support of a, balanced approach to deer management because it comes at a high cost to, sustainability.
So, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. And our next speaker is Melissa Smith. Melissa.
Yes, hi. Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay? I was having a little bit of mic trouble before. Okay, thank you so much. I am shifting gears on what I'm talking about, and the coffee's kicked in, so I'll try to talk as slowly as possible. But I did want to talk. It does sort of pertain to the emergency rule, but I did want to. One of the things we talked about in the public hearing was facing these funding gaps, and this isn't necessarily to that, but we have a beautiful history of citizen-led conservation. And, we see that every year when, nature lovers check the endangered resource box on their tax forms, right? And under the current framework, the state's primary funding focus stays on traditional game species. And not, it doesn't really get the trickle-down effects that we hope for Endangered Resources Fund. Now, it is just my opinion that Drew runs the most important part of the DNR that exists. And, and managing for biodiversity, which, in general, fish and wildlife are not doing. But, you know, without any new options, our state's scarce endangered resource fund will probably need to also then in the future be poured into snowshoe hares and woodcock and sharp-tailed grouse, which are declining and need further research. But it is that department that goes through and decides, which species are of concern. And that funding also has to come out of endangered resources. So, I guess, the tax funds cannot be used for wolf management. It specifically says that. But rather than a roadblock, I think this is an awesome opportunity for the public to step forward and build a collaborative funding bridge. So to help with a complete picture, we tried something. So kind of inspired by the federal duck stamp. We priced a hypothetical stamp at about $87.50. Now that was the same dollar amount as the projected wolf hunting license fee, and that wasn't an accident. But to show the same dollar can be used to fund harmony instead of conflict. So this is how powerful it was. In 48 hours, we sold 30 wildlife stamps and we raised $2,625 just in grassroots donations. Then I called Fidelity, and Fidelity Charitable Donor Advised Fund said they would match up to that. So now we're at $5,250. That was in 48 hours. So clearly there is, a nature lover drive to do this, and I think, non-lethal conflict like that you were asking. I mean, we passed a $4.6 million bipartisan fencing and prevention bill signed into law by Governor Evers, but yet the Legislative Audit Bureau crushed it. Governor Evers moved to bring the state match for wildlife conflict, for the endangered resources match up to $890,000, but yet the legislature capped it at $500,000. So, I mean, I think we need to be protective here and honest, and we need to fight back. But non-lethal prevention that we're doing now is 100% effective. I don't want to go over my time, but I think a lot of farmers are forced, we know they're forced to open up their private lands to public hunting just for doing the right thing and asking for conflict assistance. And I know that prevents prevention essentially. And we want to take away that fear and respect it with real financial security. So the traditional hunting and Farm Bureau organizations, they've never made a direct grant to support the Endangered Resource Fund or wildlife coexistence. So we would love to develop a grant program, and we would give 5% of our annual budget exclusively to direct farming grants for fencing and protection tools. As long as farmers didn't have to open their private land to hunting. But anyway, designing this, I think, will take real focus work, maybe alongside Drew. I did talk to him extensively, and he probably would say he wants a black license plate, which is crazy, but we'll get through that. But I guess that concrete ask today is for the board. Maybe we could give a 15-minute presentation at a future meeting in partnership with Scott and Drew. So we have a comprehensive look at how these endangered resource funds, what are its limits, what are the funding needs, what are the expenses, and exactly what resources we need for incredible, important DNR biodiversity work. I mean, just like Dave Clausen said, we have so many deer. Okay,
Linda,
that was it.
we're way past your time, but
Oh,
I think
I'm
we got
sorry.
the
Well, thank you
message,
very
and
much.
we appreciate it. Are there any
Thank
questions?
you.
Melissa.
Yes. No. Yes.
Yes.
Sorry. Any questions for Melissa? All right, thank you. And then, did I still miss Linda Hendricks? No. Thank you. I'm listening more to the testimony than paying attention to who's actually saying it, so appreciate that. All right, so we will move on to then Department Secretaries Matters. This is the fun part.
This is
for
the
you,
fun part.
Secretary.
I'd like to recognize one retirement today of Charles Cameron from Community Financial Assistance of 33 years. In 1992, Charlie began working for the DNR utilizing his environmental engineering degree from Penn State University. Charlie is a veteran of the U.S. Air Force, who also became a licensed professional engineer and municipal waterworks operator within the department. Charlie served as a field engineer for various programs, including the Bureau of Water Quality as a wastewater engineer and the Bureau of Drinking Water and Groundwater as a water supply engineer. He spent the last 6 years of his career in the Bureau of Community Financial Assistance, where he was the West Central Region Construction Management Engineer for the Environmental Loans Program. During this time, he worked closely with 127 different sewer and drinking water projects, with DNR financial assistance totaling more than $210 million. Charlie's retirement goals include traveling with his wife of 30 years, helping his family with their home projects, golfing, fishing, volunteering, and trying to learn Spanish and guitar. We are grateful for Charlie's dedication and wish him the best in retirement. That's just wonderful. It's very heartfelt. Section B is on the real estate transactions. Are there any questions on the real estate transactions? Great. I don't have a lot of, for my own remarks, I just wanted to say thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to come here to River Falls and see the great work that we do across the department in a specific place. I think it's been a wonderful time here. I would say also just thank you for your work here as the board. In addition to the $1 million of donations that were acknowledged in the beginning, you also approved over 1,500 acres of land donations and easements. So just a really incredible amount of conservation work done here today in this meeting, and just wanted to thank you for that time and effort. I'll turn it back to you, Robin.
All right, thank you. The next item on the agenda is board member matters. And so I've been given the order that we'll take these in, and the first one to go is Bill.
Well, let me say, you're gonna do the meeting dates first?
Oh, we could do that.
Or last?
Thank you. Determine 2027 NRB meeting dates. Does anyone have suggestions? I mean, let me ask Karen. I don't know how this has been done in the past. Maybe Bill would also know.
I
Like, do
think
we
we've
put
done some
dates
kind
or
of a board motion on it.
just a
to
motion to allow the department?
Accept them, yeah.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
So, yes, Doug.
so the list, I don't have a problem with the list, but one of those dates in it has the wrong year, at least in my packet.
Oh.
August 11, 2026.
Okay. And I apologize. I didn't realize there are actually dates before us. They are. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting schedule with the edit for the correct date for the August 11.
Could I ask for a friendly amendment to that? Could you also include in that motion that dates could be changed if they conflict with any election date?
Sure.
Okay.
With the potential of necessary edits with future schedules.
Thank you. Is there a second for that?
Sure.
Sure. Okay, Mike seconds that. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're set for 2027. So how about now if we go to board member matters? I apologize. Bill.
Well, I'll state the obvious first. This was a wonderful visit to River Falls and to the resource community around it. The tour yesterday was extremely interesting, informative, and I just appreciate all the hard work that staff put into this. It's a huge effort, but it really helps the board to see firsthand both the people and the resources and put them all together, and it makes us better in our jobs as a board. So thank you very much. Secondly, we've heard this before in public testimony, and that's the concern with CAFOs, and we've heard it from this area. And I just want to say, Robin, I'm really pleased that we're going to have that on our agenda for September, and would ask that in visiting the CAFO farm, also to get information from staff that somewhat relates to the input we've heard in terms of, what is the current situation with CAFOs, the numbers, the impacts, I guess the effectiveness of the programs. At least to start that conversation would be very helpful.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Is that it, Bill? All right, Doug, you're up next.
Thank you, Chair. And again, I apologize for not being able to make those visits. It sounded like they were productive. If there's any information that was acquired through them tours, I'd appreciate getting some of that shared info and taking a look at it so I could be part of that anyway that way. So
I took some videos too.
did you? That would be great. If we could get those, I would enjoy that. So yeah, scheduling is tough for me. A new position I've taken here at home, and my scheduling has been pretty wild. So it should get better though moving forward. Other than that, I'd like to welcome Mike. I'm glad you're here and look forward to continued working with you on the board. So it's a good thing. The other thing, and just a reminder for folks that we're really in wild rice season right now. Lots of folks out there gathering for subsistence use in wild rice, especially in the north. So just keep that in mind in your travels and use, and it's important for us to protect those areas as well. And we've been doing a pretty good job at it, but there's a lot of issues in the north, and we want to make sure that rice is protected throughout the year, so we can get to this season that's most important for us that use it for subsistence. Lots of threats out there to our rice, things like pesticides and herbicides, high recreation traffic, and other things that really threaten those wild rice beds. And hope we continue to push for protection of those areas. So, and I think that was about it. Chair, thank you.
Can I interject one? Just
Yes.
Thanks for raising that, Doug. I should have also done so. But the governor declared that first week in September, so starting August 31st, is Wild Rice Week. And the department has been working with DADCAP and tourism and the other cabinet agencies, as well as the Wild Rice Stewardship Council, to make sure that we're doing our best to celebrate that first inaugural week. So we're going to be doing a lot of communications and just education and public education to a lot of the different stakeholders that live in those areas. So very excited about that, and just wanted to mention that since it'll be before the next board meeting.
Good stuff.
And thanks, Doug. Deb, you're up next.
Thank you, Chair Schmidt, and you run a great meeting with the tutelage of former Chair Smith. So I really appreciate it. Secretary Hoon mentioned air quality. We have family that have property in eastern Washington State, and the fires in Spokane have created their properties almost unvisitable because of today it's 165 air quality. So this is an issue we're consistently having. I would like to echo the gratitude that Doug expressed. I really wanted to be at this tour. River Falls is my husband's alma mater, and he refers to it as God's country almost every day. So I was really hoping to go up and visit that, and I appreciate Robin and Ashley's accommodation for me on this. The other thing I would just like to continuously thank the DNR staff for always being available when I've got community members in my part of the state that have concerns that they can help answer and accommodate. So the last thing I wanted to say is that given the reports and issues that we hear from the DNR, I really, really urge people to be researching the candidates that are going to be on the ballot on November 3rd, not to be trite, but, whether we're talking funding or just, priorities, elections matter. So thanks. And again, thank you for allowing me to do this virtually. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Deb. Rachel.
Okay, well, I'll try not to be too long-winded, but a lot of these topics are directly pretty relevant to many of my positions, but I'm going to start. I was honored and privileged to sit on a panel at a DNR staff training at the end of July with many colleagues and friends, from fellow farmers to some agency staff. I think there was over 200 DNR staff, and I just wanted to commend the department on putting that training together, as well as the organizers. I worked directly with Stacy Steinke and Mary C. Anderson, as well as Jeffrey and Bart and everyone else. I'm gonna forget that was part of that planning team, but it was a really great comprehensive training, and a lot of the stuff that came out is, and I also commend the facilitator and the other comments I've heard with how open it was for supervisors, for leaderships to really engage with kind of that staff boots on the ground's concerns. And people were really open to, as a producer, asking kind of what we would think is dumb questions. And it just kind of illuminated a lot of maybe some of the training gaps and the engagement. And some of the take homes that I got were, you know, that increased collaboration within the department, within the different bureaus, within the different programs, as well as communication. And then taking that collaboration outward with engaging with different agency partners and landowners. And so I think I've already made effective action from that event. And some of the feedback was just really that, you know, leadership emphasizing where we should prioritize our time, and that engagement within the community, and for staff to be present at some of those events. You know, meanwhile, balancing that workload and things that need to be getting done. So my feedback from participants, from staff, from some of the leadership has been really good, that, you know, those perspectives of staff were being heard, and that, you know, there's going to be adjustments kind of being made. And yeah, and I talked to quite a few people. And so from my ag perspective, just encouraging staff to attend, encouraging supervisors to allow for staff to do that kind of in-field engagement, because I think as a position with, you know, being on the DNR, you know, being present at a lot of these meetings and events is really important. I also was at the Ag Coalition meeting, and just wanted to also emphasize that their priorities going into the next year is a lot of focus on water quality, which was really great to hear from that group. So, and this will kind of bring up to my other point is, you know, just that, you know, agriculture is really engaged. We 100% know that agriculture is, you know, if not is the biggest concern with impact to our drinking water as well as our recreation. And one of my taglines is, you know, without a robust and diverse agricultural sector as well as clean water, we lose so much of what makes Wisconsin wonderful. But also that there's a lot of farmer leaders, and that the farmer-led watershed groups have really been successful. And it's not just CAFOs, because nitrogen is applied on all crop, you know, how much of our landscape is comprised of corn, which is the primary, you know, nitrogen crop. So just inviting different conservation groups to engage with the local watershed groups, find those farmer leaders. I get asked all the time if we're making progress, and I really feel like we are through different agency partners. I wanted to thank Bud at least for that conservation tax plug, because we in conservation and agriculture are always working within limited budgets. And so more funding for those people that engage with, you know, conservation, agriculture, and our farmers is of importance. So if we had more staff time for those positions with the DNR, if we had more funding for our local county conservation, it can make a world of difference, because, you know, that's who farmers are engaging with. So I think, and then, yeah, just as other things to do is, you know, engaging with your county board and some of those local control ordinances and matters. And then, you know, as consumers, where we're purchasing our products, are we supporting those small, medium-sized farmers, the organic farmers, versus some of the commodities too? So, you know, those little things that we can all do to make a difference. And then just echoing that conservation happens through collaboration, which continued to come out in our tour yesterday, and it takes a team. So, you know, and I appreciate all the citizens coming to support, and, you know, just keep up the great work. And I guess I should add that, you know, my well at home is at 28 milligrams per liter, and I have adjacent land that's rented by the local CAFO. So all of your concerns are something that I can heavily relate to. And so, and that impact on our roads and all of those things, and mitigation versus, you know, prevention versus trying to go back through can make a big difference. That's the end of my rant for now, other than buy your state park stickers and visit these natural areas if you got an hour or so to kill. Check where they all are, because there's some really beautiful areas and we should all take advantage of them.
Thank you, Rachel.
I knew it was going to be long.
Yeah, that's okay. Jeff?
Yeah, well, my wife and I will be going back to Maiden Rock. That was a nice tour yesterday. I appreciate these tours and getting a chance to get out in the field. And I came to the board thinking I had a good understanding of the different programs that the department was involved with, but this has definitely widened my horizon. And tours like yesterday really do that. And it was a very good tour. And thanks to the West Central staff for putting that on. I've been a little concerned after our last meeting with the CDAC, the County Deer Advisory Committee meeting we had, where we had a lengthy debate with a recommendation, and been racking my brain to kind of trying to figure out how next time, you know, maybe we could get the information that we needed to feel comfortable about how we voted. We had a kind of split decision amongst this. I think I went back and forth a couple times during the meeting. It was, even after the meeting, I was second guessing my, you know, and trying to figure out what information I really needed to really make a better decision. So I've been talking to several groups. Mike is experienced. I've been visiting with Mike, and so I hope to come back with some maybe some possible recommendations, work with the staff, you know, and see how we can maybe get the information that we need to feel comfortable about accepting those recommendations or asking the questions that we need to. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Mike?
Yeah, thanks. I wanted to, the tour yesterday was great, learned a lot. I think it's just always neat to see the competency, passion, and commitment to the natural resources. It's not just in my little world, it's sort of all over the state. And so it's neat it was enjoyable to see the work that was getting done. I'd like to request an agenda item to have the department give a presentation about deer and deer management, kind of echoing what Jeff said. I think just being new to the board and I know there's been presentations on deer management, but as someone who's been real active in the CDAC process, I would like to have the state come give maybe a holistic sort of big picture approach of the challenges we face as we lose hunters, less hunter effort, what it takes for a person to harvest an antlerless animal on public land, private land, hunting as a management tool. Do we have the tools to actually manage the herd? How are CDACs doing? Big picture, you know, they set these objectives. Are they hitting objectives? If they're not, why not? You know, and I know there's been some legislative restriction on tools that are available, but I think there may be other tools that we could come up with. And so I just would like to kind of hear the staff fairly soon in the next couple of months, I think lay it all out there so we can make better informed decisions on just how CDACs are operating, the challenges, the pros, the cons, and just how we can, I think there's a lot of social science, and I think there's some biological science, and just finding that, you know, reevaluation of, you know, sort of getting that balance in order. So I'd like to request to see that on the agenda fairly soon. Because I think what happens is the CDAC, you know, decisions come and we're sort of forced to make a decision. It'd be nice to sort of just lay the groundwork for, you know, I think a more informed decision-making process before we get to the kind of the tension of, you know, that holiday hunt or what they did in that DMU. So I think we can learn a lot, and there's a lot of expertise within the state and how that deer management aligns with the DNR mission to sort of provide abundant healthy wildlife populations and ecosystem health. Are we meeting those in these counties where we have, you know, a lot of extra unsold tags, and we just don't know how to, you know, move the needle to get those deer harvested? And as a forester, you know, I live and breathe some of those challenges. As a hunter, I kind of see both sides.
Thanks, Mike. All right, so I wanted to, again, congratulate all the staff for the work they did on the tour. And not only the staff, it was really valuable, a couple of things were really valuable. One, it was great to hear from the mayor of Bay City who came and joined us. That was excellent, and how he saw the projects the DNR doing providing great benefit to the entire region. So it's not only ecological, but also economically will enhance that area for a long time into the future. And it was great to have some conversations with them. I also appreciated, as I said earlier, hearing from UW River Falls folks, and also just being able to spend some time to socially engage with folks who are involved in our activities through the dinner that they had. So it was, I appreciate that. I wanted to also mention that the Mississippi River Committee of the Wisconsin Conservation Congress is meeting this Saturday within walking distance of my house. So I was going to go and listen in and kind of hear what they were saying. So I just was going to highlight the work that the Mississippi River Committee does. I also wanted to talk a little bit about partnerships. We are in really hard times within the agency. And so those contributions that our partners make are what keeps us in basic survival mode in terms of environmental protection, resource management. And so I hope that folks realize how truly appreciative we are and the difference it makes in terms of how the agency can operate. Without that, we would look like a very different state. I also had a question. I know I in the past had asked for some information about the salt-wise chloride issue in groundwater, but I'm hearing a lot of feedback with respect to nitrates. And nitrates come from all different sources. It's not just agriculture, it's septic systems and other things. And I'm wondering if in the future we might be able to have kind of an overview of where are we at with nitrates. It's such a ubiquitous, I mean, it's everywhere, as we heard today too. So it would be just nice to have an overview of, are we making progress? Where are we going? What direction are we going? Is there priorities for groups that we should be partnering with and working with to try to show the most impact of improvement as possible? So that was the last thing I had. And as I said earlier, we'll learn more about the CAFOs at our September meeting. And I think that's also very, very timely. So with that, I don't know, have I forgotten anything else? I seem to have forgotten. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn for the day.
There's a second?
I'll second.
Second by Jeff. All in favor or any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, Deb and Doug, for joining us virtually. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good day, everybody.